As the landscape of war and terror has shifted, so has the SAS's role. But at their core, one constant remains: the need to strike right at the heart of the enemy. Covert penetration, rapid insertion, living and fighting in the enemy's lair. This is what the SAS do. It's the kind of work that can buy a man enemies. It's the kind of work that can lead to a life of anonymity.
The whole concept and the idea of a special air service is all about operating behind enemy lines. The further you get behind enemy lines, actually the easier it is, because people are not expecting you to be there.
Using the element of surprise and rapid insertion, the SAS caused maximum damage, destruction, and havoc with a minimum of manpower. It's a tactic that was developed by the SAS's founder, the head of their family tree, Lieutenant Colonel David Stirling. World War II, Stirling and the British Army were fighting the Germans for supremacy in North Africa. Directly in their sights, Rommel's Afrika Korps. Both sides knew that air superiority in the desert would be crucial to the conflict. Stirling had to silence the Luftwaffe. He believed the solution lay in small, four-man raiding parties loaded onto jeeps and armed to the teeth with heavy caliber weapons. Their mission, to take out German air bases.
Bombing targets from the air during World War II was sort of a hit-or-miss affair, particularly if the aircraft were dispersed. So one of the reasons the SAS come into being was to attack German airdromes. Putting people on the ground in vehicles to run around the airdrome shooting it up was a great thing, and they did it very well.
The vehicle the SAS chose to mount their missions was the legendary Willys Jeep. Small, fast, and reliable, it had served the American Army in Europe and the Far East.
The SAS would have modified this vehicle for use in the desert. They would have put a mount up here in the front and on the other side for two machine guns. And about this position right here and over there, they would have put another mount for two more machine guns. And then in the center, they could have put a big mount and then put a 50 caliber machine gun on that. So this vehicle had quite a lot of firepower for raiding German airdromes.
The SAS had taken the Willys and turned it into a four-wheeled apocalypse. Their plan? Infiltrate German airfields, drive right up to parked fighters, and smash the Luftwaffe from point-blank range.
They favored a direct attack in their jeeps, driving down the center of the runway in a V formation, using the massive firepower of their Vickers Ks.
The Vickers K was originally fielded in British fighters and bombers, delivering a rate of up to 1,200 rounds per minute. It was a First World War widowmaker, a flesh and fabric chewing beast, capable of bringing down German planes. But to destroy targets on the ground, British weaponologists would have to rethink their choice of bullets. Shooting up wings and fuselages wouldn't be enough. The German planes had to be permanently grounded.
A lead bullet shooting up an airplane punches a hole through it, and that's effective. But what they were using was a round called Buckingham, which was in use in the First World War to shoot down balloons. It was a high explosive round.
It was the invention of J.F. Buckingham, a British automobile engineer. The bullet contained an incendiary filling, which percolated through a small hole, the seal of which melted on firing, resulting in the phosphorus igniting on contact with the air. Using the Buckingham, the SAS were able to cause carnage before speeding back to base camp and safety.
The SAS marries a Jeep, the Vickers K, the Buckingham round, and some very well-trained soldiers into a team, and they go after the German Luftwaffe in North Africa, and they're very effective at it.
The SAS destroyed on the ground more aircraft than were destroyed by the Desert Air Force in the air.
In fact, they had destroyed over 200 planes, crippling Rommel's dream of establishing German air superiority. Mission accomplished. Through World War II, the Willys Jeep and the SAS became a lethal combination, the Bonnie and Clyde of deep, devastating insertion. But like all doomed relationships, the SAS soon split for a younger model, the British Land Rover. Slower and heavier than the Willys, it made up for it with an indestructible body and a greater load capacity.
Land Rover makes a very good four-wheel drive vehicle. It's a very reliable vehicle, and it can be fixed. So that's why the SAS like it.
We strip it down, just pack the wagon full of fuel, pack it full of ammunition, and get on with it, basically. And it works. It's a good wagon.
Of course, the electrical system is not good, and it leaks and all kinds of things. But other than that, it's a great vehicle.
In 1968, the SAS converted a 109-inch Land Rover for desert duties. 4 fuel tanks allowed a capacity of 100 gallons to be carried. Heavier-duty chassis, springs, and sand tires were fitted. The doors and windscreen were removed to lower its weight and profile. It also got an insane paint job.
Pink Panther was this marvellous nickname for this modified Land Rover, so called because the camouflage scheme adopted was a pinky coloured one, which is very effective in the desert.
Pink absorbs light, and at night, that pink vehicle turns invisible. It's called Mountbatten Pink.
The Pinky's paintwork evolved from experiments conducted on World War II British warships. Admiral Louis Mountbatten, a relative of the future Queen of England, mixed medium gray and Venetian red to create what became known as Mountbatten Pink. He believed this color absorbed light, camouflaging his destroyers.
The problem was that the sailors don't like to go to sea in a pink boat, so they gave up on it. But it's a very, very effective color at night.
The Pink Panther didn't defend the SAS's hardman credentials. They've stuck with the Land Rover, and today, the 110-inch model is blazing the Taliban in Afghanistan. The SAS go in where it hurts, hitting the enemy hard and fast, and nobody needs hitting harder or faster than terrorists. In 1980, they proved it, mounting the most famous Special Forces mission in history. And in the process, a certain submachine gun would become a legend.
You're watching the Military Channel. Go behind the lines.
By the early 80s, terrorism was big news. All around the world, elite special forces were training for the worst, hoping for the best. In Britain, the SAS had already cut their teeth in counterinsurgency and had assisted foreign governments with terrorist incidents. But they wouldn't have time to grow complacent. In 1980, a 6-man terrorist team calling itself the Democratic Revolutionary Movement for the Liberation of Arabistan entered the Iranian embassy in London. They took 26 hostages and demanded the release of 91 comrades held in Iranian jails. The SAS were immediately deployed to London. The mission's codename? Operation Nimrod. Their base of operations? The building right next door to the embassy, number 14 Prince's Gate. Among their number, SAS trooper Pete Winner.
From number 14 we could mount a technical attack on the building, which employs listening devices, fibre optics, and the whole of the building eventually became bugged.
Surveillance has always been a core aspect of every SAS mission. Over hours, days, and even weeks, they study the enemy, watch him, listen to him, know him.
Part of the equipment that they used in the embassy takedown were pinhole cameras, where they could put a camera in a little hole through the wall and look to cover their tracks so that the terrorists inside couldn't hear them. They redirected flights out of Heathrow Airport so that the noise of the aircraft flying overhead would disguise what was going on the ground.
Using architects' plans, the SAS began familiarizing themselves with the embassy's layout. They had to know every room, every window, every door, like the back of their hands.
Whichever room that you were going to assault, from the architect's plan, they actually measured it all out, and in white tape they did a reproduction on the floor.